Hi, I'm Cindy.
And I'm Danielle.
Welcome to Unapologetically Females.
We wanted to create a fun, non-judgmental space where women can talk about their shared experiences.
Here we will normalize the challenges we face as females living in a society that dictates unrealistic and outdated expectations on what a woman should be.
Together, we hope to cultivate a supportive community of women who empower one another to courageously live unapologetically.
A quick disclaimer before we get started. Although Cindy and Danielle are licensed therapists, this podcast is not to be interpreted as therapy or a replacement of therapeutic services. It is strictly a conversation between two women about their experiences in the world. If you liked today's episode, please make sure to like and subscribe below. Also, follow us on all of our social media platforms at Unapologetically Females. With that being said, we hope you enjoy this episode.
We're back.
We're back.
Here we are. So today's episode, hot topic, I feel like. Everybody has their own opinion on it, good, bad, indifferent. I feel like at this point, most people partake in it, or many people do, and those that don't seem to be probably the healthier ones.
Exactly.
However, nonetheless, I do participate. It's kind of the new way of the world, but social media is our topic for today.
That is our topic, and we have a few different angles as far as age, how different ages view social media, what sort of importance they put behind it, things like that. Because, I didn't have social media growing up. I had the phone on the wall with the cord that reached to my room if I was lucky. Definitely didn't have a phone in my hand at all times.
Right. Phone in your hand at all times.
It's like another appendage for some.
Mm-hmm. That's real. I'm fascinated by individuals who are lost without their phone.
Mm-hmm.
It is so interesting to see. Like my brother and I were actually just having a conversation recently. He's like, remember when we used to go places? That's not how he sounds, but apparently that's what I think it sounds like. So he'll love that. But we were talking about, he's like, for some reason I was going back to the voice. I was going to do it again.
Do it. I like it.
But he's like, yeah, remember when we used to go places and you had to like print out MapQuest? Like directions for MapQuest. I'm like, yeah.
I had a Thomas Brothers guide. Have you ever seen that? I mean, it's like a huge spiral-bound book with maps.
Road maps.
Yeah. And you would have to pull the car over. Yeah. If you were good, you pulled the car over and you had to like look on each page, and each page was like a different area, different freeway, yada yada. It was insane.
Yeah.
Insane. I definitely did not have Siri talking to me.
Right.
Yeah.
I know. So it's wild how much we've evolved, and it feels like really quickly.
Okay, I was going to say that, right? Like, I feel I had a cell phone in college, but I was only allowed to use it for emergencies. So it was for driving back and forth between California and Arizona. Mm-hmm. That was 1992. Mm-hmm. But it was like, like the Miami Vice brick type thing.
Mm-hmm. That was my parents' first cell phone, was the Miami Vice type brick phone.
Yeah.
I can't remember what grade I was in. So you and I are 10 years age different. So you were in college, and remember that. So that phone came out. I was probably in middle school when that phone came out.
Right.
I didn't get my first. I had a pager.
Mm-hmm.
A pager.
Oh, I forgot about pagers.
I had a pager. I had a pager, and when it would buzz, my parents would page me. I'd go to a payphone, which are, I think, non-existent, and I would call them collect because I never had quarters.
Yeah. Where do you accept this call from?
I would
insert name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And sometimes I was like, if I just wanted to tell them something and they weren't paging me to call them, that I would just say the message in the you're expecting, record your name. And so what I would do is say, so they didn't have to pay for the call. I would call and be like, I'll be home in 10 minutes.
Hang up.
And then hang up so they didn't have to accept it. Yeah.
You know the operator on the other side is like, oh, geez, again.
I know. Operator.
operator.
The operator.
Dial 0 or 411.
411.
Yeah. Do people even say that anymore? What's the 411 on?
Yeah, because you
like,
could
what's
call
the
411 was the
information?
information line.
Huh? Yeah.
That was our social media.
That was totally.
You
it
know.
was a live voice.
Yeah, that's wild. So I feel like in such a short period of time, we've evolved, and now there's like a bajillion different platforms, and
In a short amount of time.
and also, can we talk about this is something that has bothered me forever. This has nothing to do with social media, but we're going to talk about it for a second. The cost of a cell phone.
No shit.
What?
My husband and I both had to get new cell phones.
Okay, well, let's just also talk about you still had an iPhone with a button, so it was time.
I mean,
but
I had a little bit of fear around learning something new.
yeah, fair. Yes. I feel the same way. But whoa,
$1,200
a
for
phone,
each phone.
a phone.
Each phone.
That is crazy.
You know why? It's like tampons. They
Yeah.
know you need it, so they can charge whatever they want for it.
It is
Right?
crazy.
Yeah. It's crazy.
It's crazy.
It's crazy.
I mean, like that's not how much my Nokia cost back in the day.
No.
Okay, my Nokia with the snake game on it. That was plenty.
Ooh, remember that like slide up? What was
Oh,
that?
I got one of those too. A sidekick.
A sidekick. Yeah.
Paris Hilton had one.
Oh, well, then you had to have one.
You know?
Paris Hilton is my husband's one, just to be.
Really?
Yes, I know. I think it's because she eats cheeseburgers on top of fancy cars in a swimsuit, looking hot.
Somebody needs to tell him that that's just smoke and mirrors.
I mean,
Just kidding.
he knows. He goes to bed with me every night. He knows all about smoke and mirrors.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
There's the perfect lighting. And the perfect lighting, I could also, I'm just kidding.
Back to social media with the perfect
Right. There you go.
filters. I mean, remember?
Filters.
Do you remember when you and I put a filter on and we were like, damn, we look good.
I've been known to dabble in a filter or two. There are some filters. Yeah, it's true. We've done some filters. I actually requested that we just have a filter on all of our videos that they're doing right now while we record of the lips, the full glam, the eyelashes, the trimmed jawline. That jawline in those filters are, jeez,
I do a lot of
$5,000.
work on Zoom.
Yeah.
The Zoom filter, love it. Until I get off of Zoom and check myself in the mirror and I'm like, oh, damn.
Do you know when you
That's
have
not
like
me.
a
Is that
filter on and you move slightly and it turns it off and you're like, oh, you scare yourself. Reality hits. Oh, yeah.
Shit.
Yeah. Don't move. Don't move.
Yeah, for sure.
So now we're in this whole world with a generation that we've created of people who, one, are lost without their phones,
Yep.
and two, are addicted.
It's an addiction.
It's a new addiction.
There's been case studies done.
Yes. And what has happened to, I think, just brain development and mental health because of the impacts of so much media consumption, not just media consumption, but then add the layer of what social media promotes. So like, I think there's a layer of like, okay, we're in front of screens and what does that do to your eyes and what does that do to your brains and what does that do, like those types of impacts that it has on you. But then there's the layer of like the social layer, the mental health piece to it.
Comparison.
And we've just spiraled, in my opinion.
For sure. Even things like, I see so many teens who are so tired all the time because they've been up on social media till 3 a.m. and then they have to get up for school at 6.
Absolutely.
It's like, I got 3 hours of sleep last night. Of course you're tired.
Right.
But back in our day, the worst thing we would do was fall asleep with the TV on.
Right.
But when you have a phone in your hand, you have to be interactive. You have to be actually like
And that
doing
light
something.
in 6 inches from your face and from your eyes and confusing your body and throwing off your circadian rhythm. Like there's just so much. And so I just feel like we're in, it's not going away.
No.
It's not going away. Like I remember when AOL came out, and that was probably my first experience with I don't know, that maybe that was the social media of my day, that I am instant messenger. So you'd log in, like the noise, the login noise, and it did that.
Your brother's voice and the dial-up login. Two good ones.
I'm here all day, folks. So there was that, and then it would log in, and then sometimes it would, like, the connection wasn't great. It would be busy or something. I don't know, there was something weird. Then you'd start it over.
Yeah.
But you'd log in and you had your screen name.
Oh, yeah.
And it was like you spent a lot of time thinking about your screen name.
I was never clever enough. I should have been better at that.
Me too.
Because then I could brag about it now, but I have nothing to brag about.
Yeah, it's there. When I hear about screen names, but chat, whatever they were called, handles, and now I think it's with, I don't know, but whatever back then, AOL names. Some people were good.
I know.
It's a good
Clever
story.
people.
It's a good story to tell when you're older.
Yeah.
But we don't have those, so sorry.
Not in this podcast. Yeah.
But so it started there, where it was like you had that interactive, you sit on your computer, you'd send a message, someone would send one back. And like, I feel like that was my first exposure to, I guess, what social media was at the time.
Yeah. I mean, so I'll be 50 in 2 years. So I'm 48. When I went to college, only like really wealthy people had laptops. Like the laptop was not even a thing, right? Like
The laptop.
the laptop. The laptop.
Kind of like the TikTok.
Exactly. But I mean, shout out to my girlfriend Amy. She was the only one in our entire sorority house that had a laptop.
Oh, good for her. Way to
Right?
go, Amy.
I know. She was an only child.
That only child life.
Yeah. She had a lot to envy. She still does. Yeah. She's a rock star.
Oh, I love that.
Not because of her materialistic things, but because she's a rock star in many other
Right.
ways. Yes.
And she had a laptop.
And she had a laptop in 1992.
Yeah.
Amazing. But, okay, so going back to, it seems like it happened so fast. Granted, like, I know that was 30 years ago. 30 years is a long time. And now, we have all these different social media what do you call them? I don't know. That's why we're bringing younger people into this conversation.
Platforms?
Platforms. That's the word.
Platforms.
Yeah. That
I was a little late on that. I was a little late on filling in the blank because I was calculating how many years ago 1992 was. I just had to confirm it was 30 years.
It was, right? Yeah, okay, good. Because math is not my strong suit, but yeah.
It does not feel like 30 years ago.
I know.
Oh, yeah, 1992.
30
That's,
yeah.
anyways,
Yeah.
continue.
So clearly, Danielle and I are not the ones to really be talking about the current social media trends. We're going to bring in two guests. One is Danielle's daughter.
Yeah. She's 7.
I called you 6 earlier, sorry. And one is our fabulous, amazing, this wouldn't happen without her intern, Georgia, who is 19. Am I correct? Oh, almost 19. 1 month.
Age is just a number.
It is just a number.
I'm 28.
With a filter. With the right filter, we can all be 28
it's
again.
It's a secret. My daughter's yelling in the background. You are not 28. Jeez, haters gonna hate.
Yeah, that's right. So, you want to start?
I feel like we should kind of talk a little bit about, we touched on addiction, right? And it's an addiction. It's created this addiction, all these different platforms. And I feel like it's important, I think from the seats that we sit in our day jobs as therapists. I think some of the seats we sit in, when it comes to the individuals that we're working with, what we see and how that's impacted them, and what I feel like I know to be true is that it is an addiction, and part of that, or the opposite of addiction, is connection. And social media, I think, has robbed so many people of true connection.
True connection and the ability to connect.
Yeah. How do you
do that?
connect?
Yeah.
I mean,
I even think of like interviewing for a job, the skills that, our generations have versus the sometimes lack of skill in communicating and face-to-face interaction and, kind of selling your capabilities and things like that.
right.
Because with social media, it's all in front of you. It's all
Right.
there.
And the other piece is something I've observed with family and friends and also individuals that I've worked with. What is the component of not only not knowing how to connect, but then craving the validation from these platforms
The
of
likes.
individuals
Yeah.
they don't even know.
No.
Like, no, and it's this, what's being created and putting out there is, I mean, it's like that show, I don't even know if it's still around, but there was an MTV show called Catfished.
Oh,
You
yeah.
know?
Uh-huh.
And so it's like essentially you can create anybody you want to be and like sell yourself, and it could be fake. It can
Yeah,
be totally untrue.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just feel like, I don't know if I'm using this term correctly, so again, don't come at me if I'm not, but it feels like social media is just one big catfish. Like,
Yeah.
do you know what I mean? Like,
except that the people that we work with or people in general take it as truth. That's the hard
and
thing.
it's dangerous.
It's so dangerous.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I just feel like you talked about sleep and staying up, and like sleep has been studied for years, the effects of sleep. So it's like nothing new, and like
No.
the lack of sleep and what that does to brain development during your developmental, like formative years. And it's stunting people's growth and ability to operate
Right.
at like at a standard that
Right.
at the standards that we used to have, or like, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
really to live out to their full potential.
Yeah.
Because you're tired.
You're tired
And so many other things.
for so many reasons. But, then part of me likes to play devil's advocate and say, okay, so maybe our society is just changing and we need to embrace that. And AI is, playing a big role in our future. And is this, true? There's lots of bad side effects from these devices and from, the role that social media plays within our lives. And are we at a point in our lives where society is just changing?
I think that I think there's truth to all of it. I think it goes back to everything in moderation. But if you're not moderating, if you're not in control of how much social media your child is absorbing a day, or in general, or the content that they're absorbing, that's the wild card, is that you can put parental controls on things, but at the end of the day,
Is social media parenting our children?
right. And your child is going to come across content that is inappropriate for their age, and they're going to regurgitate content that isn't appropriate for their age, and they're not going to even know what they're saying.
In your least likely situation, right? They're going to regurgitate it at the dinner table with grandma and grandpa.
Well, and now this is the other thing too, is people are becoming famous because they're influencers. I don't even, like, a job, you can be an influencer,
That's
which is
amazing.
so cool.
It's so cool. Like Emma Chamberlain, hello.
I don't even know who that is. I wish I did.
love her.
See,
She's
I'm
a
not
rock
as cool
star.
as you. Dang it.
Trust me. It takes a lot to get to this level of cool.
Okay, I'm
50
gonna work
years.
on it. But like I have one lady. She's a mom that I do follow. Her House of Lou. Shout out to her. Is her handle, and I just find her. She's very real, and like
Yeah.
I like that.
love
Like
real.
it's
Yeah.
nothing. She's just filming herself, her life. She has 4 kids and a husband, and so I'm very. She's great. I really like following her. But I mean, these people, which fantastic, more power to you if you've been able to create a business and an income stream off of being an influencer in social media. However, you're now in a position of power.
For
You're
sure.
now in a position, and power, I say in the sense of like, I mean, power, I feel like is also a perceived state of being and not necessarily real, but it also kind of like control. But like, I also think that you have the ability and a platform to reach so many people in a click.
There's a lot of
And
responsibility.
that comes with responsibility. And so if you're not handling yourself in a responsible manner, then what? And if we're not being, and if we're not being parents and monitoring our child, like there's just so many layers to this whole social media arena. And how it's impacting kids. And I think to circle back on waiting to receive validation from likes, it's like, and if you don't get that, then the spiral.
Oh, yeah. I mean, what it does to self-esteem and to, overall general mental health is just sad and scary.
So sad. And we've seen studies. I mean, they've done them of how it's increased anxiety and increased depression and, symptoms of depression and increased, people's inability to, have communication skills and to connect. And there's just so much out there. And so I do think, yes, it is the new way of the world, so to speak. And also, if we're not responsible with it, if we're not responsible parents with it, if we're not responsible influencers with the content we're putting out, if we're not monitoring what's out there, what our kids are watching, what's appropriate, what isn't appropriate, how much time, what's the length of time that's appropriate that isn't going to negatively impact them, if we're not taking their removing the phone from the bedroom, if you're you
don't have to be up till 3 o'clock in the morning scrolling if your phone's not in your bedroom.
Exactly. Having some boundaries around it, I think there could be a space for it to be healthy. Right. But again, it takes a lot of effort. And let's just say it, as parents, we're tired.
Well, and as you're saying all this, I'm like, wow, there's a lot of extra responsibility on parents now raising young children, as you know, raising young children. Because now you have, our main priority is to keep our kids safe.
Right.
And now we've added this whole new world of a way to become unsafe.
Right.
And it has to, as you said, has to be monitored, has to be watched, has to.
And we haven't even gone into the whole layer of child predators.
Oh gosh, yeah.
There's a whole other area of people out there on the prowl for your child and that content, and to do something horrible with it.
Horrible, yeah.
Or to meet up with them and to groom them. And even that there's that I think that we shouldn't go unnoticed too, or unspoken of, is that there are bad people out there looking to do that. And so how are we protecting our children and monitoring who's talking to them, what are those online interactions looking like, and staying on top of it.
Yeah.
Is it worth it? Or do you it's such a hard, I don't know.
Such a hard call.
Yeah.
Yeah. Back in my day, if you were pissed at your parents, you packed a bag and threatened to run away.
My brother was notorious at that. He loved to pull
Your brother?
Yeah, here we go. I'm running away. And he'd pack a duffel bag and he'd go to the end of the driveway because he was a real big chicken shit.
He didn't leave the driveway.
He wasn't, or he'd go crawl in the car, go get in the car and wait for him, and then he'd come back in.
Yeah. Now, kids just get on their phone.
Yeah.
And
come pick me up.
Come pick me up. Yeah.
Just buying drugs.
Yep.
That's another thing.
Yeah.
I've seen multiple people which I don't know. This could be really dumb, so I'm sorry. But this whole for some reason, the drug thing, I've always just heard media has shared stories of people who have gotten drugs, and it always seems to be connected to Snapchat. And maybe it's just the stories I have read, but they're like, oh, they messaged on Snapchat and got drugs, and then my kid died. I didn't even know they were doing drugs. And I don't know if that's because Snapchat has that thing where it's
you're looking at the wrong person.
I don't know.
I don't even have Snapchat. So we had a little break there. We learned that TikTok is maybe an easier platform to...
Nope, not TikTok.
Oh. Snapchat. Wow.
We were, Georgia briefed us, gave us the 411.
Snapchat. Snappity snap.
Yeah.
Is maybe easier to run drugs through because once you see it, it goes away unless
Yeah.
you save it.
Same thing with the
So
predator
there's no
thing.
trail.
Predators can send you messages, and unless you save it,
Yes.
screenshot it, whatever, there's not a paper trail of the communication. So, which is like, that's dangerous, right?
Super dangerous.
Like, and I also think that nothing that ever goes on the internet is gone forever. So I'm like, the Snapchat,
Yeah.
the people of Snapchat, do you have the ability to access what was going back and forth, or does it legit go away into?
I think they have to have the ability because, like, what if somebody's doing something highly illegal and they get caught? Don't you think that the government or whoever, the FBI, Criminal Minds, whoever, can go back and...
Those people.
Yeah, right?
I don't know.
I don't know either.
But that's
But
interesting.
I would think that...
But that, how scary, you know? It just goes away.
Yeah.
I can't access it, and I'm really good at getting into like things.
Yeah, I know. I'm afraid about what you know about me. So that was one. The other thing was you brought up a great point about how it's affected us as women. And also, my thought is how it's affecting our young girls. How is it shaping them and their minds? And, you know, we like to be unapologetically female and empower women and, you know, women's rights and all of the above. And is it making us go backwards?
That's it's a good question.
You know?
I have no idea, and in some ways, it feels like it is. I feel like I mean, you can find anything on all of these platforms, right? And I think that, one, because you can be anybody you want to be and put out whatever you want to put out, there's this false sense of everything's roses and butterflies and rainbows, and I'm living the perfect life. And so then millions of people are consuming that and sad if they don't, or get into depressed states
Right.
or some, you know, things like that.
I don't have that life, so there must be something wrong with me. Or
Right.
my life is so sad because I'm not traveling to Europe or, you know.
Yeah, flying on private jets or doing all, you know, all the things. And then there's the I think the layer of also looks, you know, consuming so much of what one body type, so to speak,
Yes.
of
Yeah.
like what the expectation is of who should be wearing this or what you should look like or how you should dress. And
it's just not realistic.
because, like, as we know, we can just put on a filter and literally look like somebody else.
Yeah.
It's wild.
So interesting. We were in the airport a few weeks ago, and my younger daughter saw a picture of Kylie Jenner and was like, gosh, Mom, that's so sad because girls look at that and think that's real, that's realistic, that's what you can look like or we should look like, and then strive for that. And I was like, you know, she's 19. I'm like, good for you for pointing that out. And you're absolutely right. Like, this is what's being fed to you. This is what, you know, your expectations become, I for many, I think, unrealistic expectations. And there's, you know, I don't know Kylie Jenner. I'm sure she's a beautiful, wonderful person. But, you know, in many cases, there's plastic surgery involved. There's, you know...
Or there's hundreds of thousands of dollars a year that's put into going and getting lasers and injections and all of the top of the line things that the average person doesn't, one, have access to. I mean, they have people coming to their homes to do treatments and just so many things that if, like, you know, that financially the upkeep on that type of service and those things it's insane what, you know, the amount of money that's being poured into that upkeep, that it's just not realistic.
It's not
and
realistic.
to think that that's just I wake up like this,
Right.
like it's like no.
Yeah.
You spent X amount to wake up like that.
They probably, I mean, many people probably spend the same amount of time on their appearance, meaning the lasers, the extensions, the blah, 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 all that, as they do in their career.
That's wild.
Right?
It's wild.
Yeah. And then, oh, okay, here you go. This is what you're supposed to look like. This is what you're supposed to look up to. This is, this is your standard for beauty.
As I have gotten older, so growing up, teenage years, I had so much hair, like just a ton of hair, very, very like curly hair. And throughout the years, I have done many years of heat damage to it. And so my curl's different. And I feel like I have lost so much, like it's just thinned out substantially. And I just think for the longest time when I would look at other people, because it was bothering me, because I'm like, why has my hair changed so much? I mean, I've had 2 kids. I've had, like, there's just a lot of reasons why.
Right.
But seeing people that had this, like, the full hair on social media, and then come to find out everybody had extensions in it. I'm like, oh, well, like, that's...
And you bring up a great point, too, of who told you that straight hair was better than curly hair?
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, clearly you got that message somewhere to the point where you spent all that time, money, et cetera, to have straight hair.
And what I would give to have my hair of 16-year-old Danielle back.
Yeah.
You know, like, it was, I had good hair back then. Like, it was like, I look at pictures and it's like, oh, if you only could appreciated that, you know?
Yeah.
So, but I just think that there's so much. And I also, think that it's important for us to acknowledge the people that are out there who use the platform for good. And so I do think that there there are so many things. I think people have access to mental health resources that they didn't have before.
For sure.
As long as people are responsibly posting accurate information, because again, you can be dangerous with that too if it's not, vetted real information. Then that's scary too. And so I think it's so important to know what you're reading, what you're consuming, who's putting that out there, be educated on that. Because there are, I think, some helpful resources that these platforms have provided free access, so to speak, to some things that maybe some people wouldn't have had access to.
And platforms that are spreading good news, like Good News Movement is one of my favorite pages of, because it gives you a glimpse into where we're doing good in society and the good people out there who, don't know they're being watched, but they're being good anyway.
Right. So we're going to bring on our first guest and have a little discussion about what social media means to them and kind of the effects and influences that it's had on their life. And then we're going to talk to Georgia as well about her experience in the social media realm.
Yes. You ready?
Go ahead.
So one of the reasons that we brought Danielle's daughter on is because she is clearly of a different age group. And it's interesting to look at how social media plays a role in our youth these days.
Right. So, okay, so we let you have tablet time, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And when you have tablet time, what are some of the rules?
You can't watch YouTube Shorts. YouTube Shorts it's kind of like TikTok, but it's not TikTok. It's just...
We can't control what comes on those, right? So what types of things do you see on YouTube?
YouTube can show you lots of good learning things, or sometimes it's just bad things. You'll go on something that looks interesting, and then you find out, oh, it's cussing. And then you'll go on another thing, and it's doing something else. And then once you get off, or if you're on too long, you might have an attitude. You might maybe get in trouble. There's lots of bad things that can happen. You might just can't control it, and then you do something really bad. Or
Maybe not really bad, but like you just,
Yeah.
sometimes you just are a little bit not yourself after you get off, right?
Yeah.
If you have it too long, yeah?
Yeah.
Does it sometimes, what happens if you watch your tablet too late at night?
Too late at night, you'll be super duper tired.
Or like not too late at night, like right before you go to bed. If you're having tablet time right before you go to bed, what have you noticed sometimes happens?
You can be really tired. You can also, you can't go to sleep. You can have nightmares. But now I don't do that anymore because my mom, I know I will get in big trouble. So now I
If you
don't
go
do it.
sneak your tablet in the middle of the night, let's clarify. If she sneaks her tablet in the middle of the night, we're not allowed to do that. However, we try and avoid having tablet time too close to bedtime because we have noticed that typically when that happens, her little brain is still going. And so she wakes up and will have nightmares or she'll have night terrors. And she'll like start talking in her sleep, like scared, or like will grind her teeth. We'll notice when she has too much tablet time close to bedtime. So it's like I can see, like it's like I
You have
physically
proof.
see the effects of when she watches her tablet too close to bedtime or has too much.
Right.
What that looks like just reflects in her sleeping habits.
Right.
And so that's interesting.
And she has the beauty of being an honest 7-year-old who, is telling us how it is.
Yeah.
Think about the teenagers
Right.
that we see or young adults that we see. Same brain activity, same
Yeah.
thing going on.
Yeah.
But, they're not aware, I don't think.
Right. Or at least us up front. I think
Yeah.
maybe it's because I think that if you admit to it, then there's like, and then what?
Yeah, don't
What-
take it away.
Yeah, because then change has to happen.
I need it.
Right.
Yeah.
And so we've created this dependency on it. And so that's, it's scary. We say, what is my main job? What are mom and dad's main job to do what? To keep what? You and your brother what?
Safe and healthy and not have lots of tablet time or like get on a screen or just do naughty things.
Oh.
And they're aware of letting me have a short amount of time on the iPad,
We set a timer, right?
or they'll just forget about the timer and I'll watch it like for an hour,
Oh, that's the
2
best
hours,
when mom
3
forgets.
hours.
Well, we try not to go to that extent, but yeah, we
Maybe
try
a car trip.
Yeah, we try and set timers. But yeah, one of the things that we've always really tried to instill in her, and it's always from the lens of like it's mom and dad's job to keep you safe and healthy. So it might not be something that you like or rules that we set that you love or that you want us to set,
Yeah.
but at the end of the day, it is our responsibility, and we're going to do everything we can to keep her and her brother safe and healthy. And so that includes putting parameters around what she consumes, content-wise, social media content, and she's not on any sort of like social media platform. It is her tablet, and she does have access to YouTube and such. And again, like I've done everything as far as like putting parental controls on those things, but I also am very aware that like, I'll walk over
always
and
work.
see a video and be like, what happened? Because I'm not intelligent enough in the digital world of like how algorithms work and such, but
Georgia.
yeah. But at the end of the day, it's like if she watches a video on, I don't know, something, it feeds you another video without her looking it up.
Right.
And that kind of can lead down a spiral.
Right. Well, and that was one question that I wanted to ask you. Do you think that, because you mentioned if I scroll through something might come up that I wasn't meant to see, or do you think that you've learned some things that you wouldn't have learned if you
Yeah.
didn't have social media? Yeah.
Like what?
Like maybe like I don't really know.
What are some things that you've seen that have been inappropriate that that you weren't supposed, like you weren't looking for, but they just came up?
You mentioned cussing. That's a good one.
Yeah. And, like, I probably will see, like, something like a movie premiere, like they're filming that. And then something comes up, adult says something, or then I hear it. And then I'll try to turn it off as fast as I can. Or I'll see an ad, and that has something creepy on it, I'll turn that off. Or the video has something creepy on it, I'll just try to click on the little button, boop.
Yeah.
And it'll just disappear.
I think one of the things with YouTube is the content on there is there's everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so one of the things that I find so odd, but kids love, and she's outgrown this, but she still watches. Like there's grown people
I think I know what you're gonna say.
either playing with toys,
Yeah.
or
Playing
like,
video games.
or playing video. So that's
Right.
the other thing. And so
That just floors me.
sometimes I've seen her watch, like sometimes the toys, there's like these scary puppet things, and like it's weird, and the content is
It's not meant for a 7-year-old.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so I've seen her stumble across some of those and watch it, and like I have no idea. Like it's like, what is that? And until I start listening to it, it's like, oh, what? This is weird. Like this is just strange, not for you. And so it's just hard to, unless you're sitting next to your child and on the tablet with them or whatever, consuming the same social media or content that they are. It's like you don't know. Like anything can kind of pop up, and so. It is scary. I think, in our house, we are really, really open as far as conversations go. There's no topic off limits as far as like that she can ask us about or that we'll talk about. And so I think we've really, really tried to be clear on the dangers of the internet. And so really trying to create responsible habits for her when she is on her tablet. We have talked about there are people out there that are just, they're bad.
They're naughty.
They're naughty.
Naughty
Yeah.
people.
And so they're trying to do naughty things to kids and take advantage of them. And so just
And people say, like, if you subscribe, you can fly out. It will play for your tickets and you can fly out of here. And they're probably...
if you subscribe,
Yeah, all that stuff. And I'm like, I will do it, but then I'll undo it because I'll be like, well, what if? It's a what if. They'll try to take me. So I'll say, okay, no, I'll take it out. So I'll just click it again. It's out. But all I do is just hit that little thumbs thing.
the like
button.
Yeah.
And it won't do anything. All it is, it just shows them that you like the video.
So, yeah. So I think that it's just
And like
interesting.
Ava, she's on TikTok. She'll show me TikTok. Nothing really happens, but if I'm on like TikTok for like a longish hour, we used to do it, but now we don't. A longish hour, it will cuckoo, and it'll rot your brain.
This is somebody that's older than you.
Her cousin.
Yeah.
That's 11.
I think that that's another thing is that kids, no matter what their age is, there's always someone older than them that's doing it. And so the influence of these older people and like striving to, when you're
Striving to be,
them. I mean, I remember I was the youngest cousin in the cousin group, and it was like I just so badly wanted to be like my cousins and do the things they were doing and talk the way they talked and dress the way they dress. And it was like I was influenced by them. And so I think, like obviously Harper's influenced by her older cousin, and Ava is influenced by people older than her, and so by the other older cousins. And so it's like, but a 7-year-old isn't at the developmental age as an 11-year-old, and an 11-year-old isn't at the developmental age of a 16-year-old. And so just really, if the 11-year-old or the 7-year-old, they all shouldn't be doing or consuming the same things.
Right.
There's a
And
lot.
I'll say something, and she'll think it's in whatever it's called. But then
She'll think it's inappropriate. Is that what you're going to say?
no, like interesting,
Oh.
and then 3 days later she'll say, and then I'll send something to her, and she's like, cool. And I'm like, she's just trying to be like Vic. And I'm like, okay.
Like the older cousins. We'll be cutting that, but that's fine.
Yeah, it's interesting though that you use the word influence because now we have this title of influencer, and our influencers back in the day used to be our cousins or our siblings or our family or sometimes maybe a classmate that you thought was really cool or something like that. But now there's totally different influencers, right? You have a big sea of influencers to choose from.
You could be, there's a category like school, cousins, family, school, cousins, family. It's like a rotation of school, cousins, family. And then I go friends, family, school.
Oh, okay. Where are we going? And
So it'll be different.
Yeah.
And the internet plays a big role. Your tablet, the things, the
Yeah.
social media, of how it influences you. So I just think that, really important for us to just keep in mind developmental stage of life and where they're at and what's appropriate and how we can do things to keep our kids safe and make sure they're consuming appropriate content.
right.
You know,
And as parents, it's super easy to say, I'm tired.
it's so easy.
I'm tired, just take your tablet, and not.
So easy.
Yeah.
It is. So, well, thank you, Miss Harper, for joining us today. Love you.
Love you, bye.
Bye. All right. So thank you for sharing
Yeah.
her with us. I think that it's super interesting to get younger people's take on what role it all plays in their life. And it's so automatic for them because they've had it since they were born.
Right.
Right.
They don't know a life.
They don't know a life without it.
Yeah.
Versus us, it's almost harder to know what life was like without it because now we have a comparison.
Yeah. I feel like oftentimes, I sound like such a grandma, but I feel like oftentimes I'm like, I feel so sad for today's generation because I'm like, you don't know a life of playing in the streets till the street lights come on. Like,
Right.
do you know what I mean? You don't know a life of not, going into your room for hours on end creating social media content and recording it over and over and over again until it's perfect, Like I spent my summers being active and outside
Right.
and playing, and it's like, and I just see kids these days spending their summers
Inside.
inside
In their rooms.
consuming video games,
And
social media.
Yeah, it goes back to that connection thing too, right? They're feeling connected because they're on their phone watching other people, connecting in that way, but they're losing out on the connection of the neighborhood friends riding their bikes in the cul-de-sac and mom and dad and siblings and family dinners even.
Family dinners. Yeah, we used to sit down as a family every night for dinner growing up.
same.
Yeah. I just think, to really circle back to the whole piece of addiction. And in grad school, one of my substance abuse professors for that course had said, the opposite of addiction is connection. And I just really, that has stuck with me. And so I just feel like with the technology that has just infiltrated all of our lives, we've just moved so far away from connection, and how that's now impacting not only our mental health, but like the adding a layer of, are we now getting into substances and using substances to numb or to feel a certain level of high that you get from social media? Because there is a dopamine rush that you get with the, oh my gosh, did you see how many likes that post got? Oh my God. And like, you're like now searching for that next high, that next dopamine rush. And when is it enough? What is enough? What is gonna, what's gonna get you the rush of your like most viral video or
Right.
something? I don't know.
Yeah. When are those receptor sites going to stop producing?
Exactly. So, we're going to bring on Georgia. She basically is unapologetically females. We just are sitting here, really. She gets this
She's
whole
the
thing
reason
going.
this happens.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. And so she's a almost 19-year-old. And so her perspective on the influences of social media and her life and how it's shaped her and, growing up in a world with it, I think getting that perspective will be really helpful. So, Georgia. So we have Georgia joining us.
Hi, guys.
The woman behind the mic.
Yes, behind the cam.
Yeah, behind the cam. Yeah, that's right. Not the mic. I'm behind the mic. She's behind the cameras.
Yeah, behind the cam.
She does this really cool board thing we have that make all of our sound.
Yeah, the sound mixer.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you for the words. Words can be hard, especially when they're around technology. Okay, so you have probably the most relevant knowledge around social media, given your age, given the world you've grown up in.
Yeah.
How do you feel like social media has impacted your life? And have you seen a shift? Like, has it been a constant, like your earliest memories, so to speak, of having a phone? Like, has it just always been in your life?
No. I remember I got all my social media, and I remember getting my first iPod Touch when I was like 7, I think. And I got all my social media. I did the whole, all in just one go, like Snapchat, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube in 2013. I remember like the exact moment I asked my mom, like, can I get social media? And she was like, yeah, I don't care. I think it's fine. So,
You were 7.
yes.
Okay.
I was 7. So my earliest memories, I do remember, like you guys were talking about, like going out and playing with the kids in my cul-de-sac and doing all of that. And I was obsessed with gymnastics. And so I would lay blankets out in the living, like I still had that creative like childhood.
Okay.
And I think that still played into my childhood even after I got social media. But I was a computer kid for sure.
Really?
Yes, I was. Once I got it, I was on it a lot.
Okay.
Yeah.
So as you've gotten older, so 7, I mean, I think, so we were talking about developmental stages earlier. So 7, what type of content are you consuming at 7 on those platforms? What were those again? You said YouTube, Snapchat?
Yeah, so I YouTube, Snapchat, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. Like I made all the accounts in like one go.
I think about that. And I'm like, they were around at that time. And I'm like, well, that wasn't that long ago, probably.
Right. No, yeah. And it was like, I feel like I could be totally wrong, but I think I had just missed like, well, I was still into like Tumblr and all of that. Like that was still around.
Okay.
But like MySpace wasn't. Like I had just missed that.
Okay.
But so yeah, like Instagram I used as like a kind of a creative outlet still, because I was a very creative kid. Like I would make little like videos on it and like funny videos, and all my extended family in Australia followed me, so it was kind of more like family.
Okay.
But I think more so where I got exposed to like things that should have probably been regulated was on YouTube, and also like games on like the Xbox. Like I remember when I was like 9 and I was playing like GTA 5, and there's like the strip club, and like
They like rape women in that, right?
yeah, like it's like
yeah.
even, which I don't even know if you really categorize that as social media, but that's
It's a good point though.
yeah, it was like you're running over people in cars and like getting chased by police, and there's a strip club with literally you can like full scenes where there's women topless and you're like in a strip club. And so I remember being like 9 and seeing that. And that just wasn't, I think that wasn't even in my parents' awareness.
Did you know what was happening?
No, not really.
Okay.
I don't know. And I didn't have, it's crazy hearing Harper talk about it because she has this full awareness of like, I understand this probably isn't the best outlet for me. And so I enjoy it, but I know my parents are in control of it too, and they have an influence on how much time I spend on it. That was never a thought in my mind. I was like, what is this? And it's new. And like, I didn't even think about how it would be affecting my brain at all.
I also, in all fairness, I think that probably at that age too, I have no idea when not TikTok, those other platforms that you named came out.
Right.
But I feel like in the last So that was 12 years ago that you're referring to. In the last 12 years, I think we know more even of how
for
much.
sure.
Do you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
there's been more research and more studies on the effects of video games, social media content. I think just generalized internet media content
For
period.
sure. Yeah.
Of what that does to us. So as you've gotten older and the way that social media is used. So the way you used it at 7 probably looks different than the way you used it at 15, 16, 17, and like even today.
Yeah.
Can you tell me about that evolution and like what was that to be a high school student with social media?
Right. So, like when I first got it, when I was, like really young, it was more like, how can I be creative with this? Or, and this is kind of unrelated, but I think my time in church had a big impact on how social media affected me, because when I was I was in church even when I was 7. I've been in church since I was born, but in high school more so, I had that awareness of like, I kind of had that guilt issue where I was like, why am I on Instagram? I could be reading my Bible kind of thing. So I had that more of an awareness of it. So definitely my freshman, sophomore, and junior year, that was on my mind a lot. And I struggled with like, I shouldn't be doing this. I shouldn't have access to this. Like, it's kind of more unrelated, but more of that, like, just feeling guilty for doing something I enjoyed that wasn't related to church. So, but that's a whole different topic.
We'll get there.
But yeah. But yeah,
the episode on religious trauma.
Yes, the religious trauma. Yes, it's real. And so that I was definitely more aware of how much time I spent on social media. I did screen time and stuff like that. But in the past 3 years, 2 maybe, I've spent way more time on social media.
Okay.
And have been like way more deep in it and like addicted for sure.
Why do you think that is?
I don't know. It kind of is. It does line up. The timing does line up a little bit with me coming out of religion more so.
Okay.
But I think it was also me moving to Arizona and coming out of the Midwest. The Midwest, I mean, I was there a few weeks ago visiting, and we were outside biking and going and get ice cream from like the standalone ice cream, like mom and pa shop.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, is Midwest culture for sure. And then moving to Arizona is like, I think the closer you get to LA, the more influencers you find. And, so the culture here is very different. And I think that influenced how much time I spend on social media, because the expectations are different too.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. Expectations. What expectations? Can you talk a little bit about what expectations are different?
Yeah, like body image, the way you should look in a swimsuit, or like even going to like the U of A campus. When I visited my friends, it was like everyone is fit. Everyone is skinny. Everyone. And then I look at my friends from California that I knew in middle school, and there's no real like the expectation for your body is so much smaller, which is it's weird too, because I grew up in Northern California until I was like around 13, and I really never thought about my body, like really ever. Like I was like a little chubby kid who like ate all her Halloween candy while she watched YouTube, and I was so happy. Like I was so happy.
Good for you.
And then I moved to Ohio, and like Midwest culture is so just different. And I think coming to Arizona for some reason, especially I think Scottsdale, it's like the expectations on even like how much you post on Instagram, or like
it's a whole thing.
Yes,
it's
a whole
fascinating. Can we talk about that?
Yeah.
I mean, I've been told by people much younger than me about that thing, but it's like it is a calculated,
very,
oh my gosh,
like so
and
calculated.
I don't even understand it, and I'm trying to, because I'm like, it is so like no, I can't post it, and I don't even know what it's called, but like I have to post this over this, or like I can do a story this many times a week and only a what is the other thing called? Like a post?
Yeah,
An actual post to your account, your grid,
profile,
your
whatever,
profile, whatever you want to call it. Like I can only do that so many times.
Yeah.
And then I do it at certain hours. And then and it's like,
it's crazy.
What? Like, where do you learn this?
I don't ever remember like sitting down and being like, okay, how do I do this correctly? Like you kind of just slowly immerse yourself in it without even realizing. It's like, how many photos can I post? Or it's even like,
it's like heroin.
yes. It's like, yes.
It's the addiction.
It's like the first one has to be me looking away or looking at the camera. And it's like, oh, I don't want to post 7 because that's too many. And then, well, why would I post 2 when I could just post 1? And what is my caption going to be? And like, then it's like turning your likes off so you don't see how many there are, but then constantly going in and checking.
You don't get notified when there's likes? Or
Well, I don't even know why they did that, because you turn your likes off, but then I go deeper into the post and find out how many likes there are, and I'm still checking it all the time. And it's so calculated, and it's like looking at it, I mean, it's fun. Like from a certain perspective, it's fun, but then from another perspective, it's like, well, why does it matter that much? And at one point, I used Instagram to like communicate with my family overseas that I never see, and like give them updates on my life and be creative. And now it's like, who's looking at my profile and like, what should I post? And another thing I thought about while you guys were talking is like, I feel like with relationships, like romantic or platonic, it's so different now. I talked about this with my sister a few weeks ago, where there's just so many things now that you kind of aren't supposed to know. Like you think about like on Snapchat, it's like, oh, this guy I'm talking to, he hasn't responded to me, but he viewed my story. And I
find that so fascinating too.
And it's like, I'm looking at his location on Snap Maps and he's at a bar, but like he hasn't responded to me. And it's like, and there's so many, and even with like regular friendships, it's like, oh, she's at this person's house, but we planned last week that blah, blah, blah. And she told me she could. There's so many things that you just shouldn't know, like it's open for like the public or like your friends, but like that kind of is like your privacy too.
Yes.
And like, think about like 20 years ago, like you didn't know any of that stuff about your friends.
No, like I joke about this all the time so my dad, he would make us like, when you leave our house and you go somewhere, you call me when you get there. And then when you're going to leave there, you call me to tell me you're leaving. So then I know like how long, when to expect you. Like, and so I had to call and check in. And I used to think, God, he would have really thrived with freaking location tracking back in the day. He would have loved that shit.
Yeah.
Like ate that shit up, because my dad loves to know where we are. So now as a grown ass woman, when I go on a road trip, which is very rare because I hate to drive, like I hate long road trips, especially with 2 kids. Like, God bless the parents that like we're like, let's go on a road trip for 5,000 miles. And it's like explore the United States. It's like, oh my God, that's like my worst nightmare.
Yeah.
One day I'll get to that level. But anyways, when we do go on a road trip, like driving to California or something, I'll turn my location on for 24 hours for my dad, so he can track me the whole way there and know we're safe. And it just brings him so much joy.
Right?
So much joy. But I'm like, that is wild that on so many levels. 1, a breach of privacy, but 2, so unsafe.
Right.
So unsafe.
It's like,
so many things could happen.
Yeah, it's like, it's an abusive tool. And it was created for safety, which I totally understand. Like my mom can see where I'm at, and like, that's great. But it's like, as like your friend or someone you're talking to like romantically, but you're not committed to, like, should they be able to see where you're at every minute? And should we be concerned about if he's responded to you, but he has viewed your story? Like, I'm talking from the perspective of like, I think of those things, but like, should I be thinking about those things?
What does it do to you when you go, okay, I've texted this guy, I see that he's at a bar and he hasn't responded to me. Where do you go mentally?
For me, it's more so just like the feeling it puts in my gut, where I'm just like, ugh, like it's kind of just like, ugh, like it's almost like I feel like I wasn't supposed to find that out kind of feeling. You know what I mean? And then I have never been in a relationship before, but I think if I was in a relationship, my mind would probably go to, there's definitely girls at that bar, and like, is he talking to any of them, or like, are they approaching him, or like, I don't know what's going on. And like, I think about 20 years ago, like, you probably would have just had a conversation beforehand and trusted your partner, and then, you know, whatever. But now it's like, I messaged him, but I can see he's here, and then he's driving, you know, on this random road, but I don't know where he's going because he didn't tell me where he's going. It's like,
That's wild that,
Yeah.
that people why let people see where you're at?
right. Or even
Like that aren't your parents
exactly. Or even
or
like
your spouse.
not even
you know?
realizing that you, like, you know, maybe being like on Tinder and then adding someone you meet, you know, at like finding someone on Tinder and then adding them on Snapchat to talk more. You don't even realize that they can see your location if you have your location set on for everyone.
So question, why would you add somebody on Snapchat to talk more instead of just putting their phone number in your phone and texting?
Well, Snapchat is this. I almost don't even understand either, but Snapchat is like the bridge between another form of social media or a dating app and then your phone number. It's like now, like if a guy asks your phone number, you know he's actually interested in you. But if a guy asks for your Snapchat, he could just want to send pictures back and forth and not say anything.
So wild. Okay, so I just have two quick, this is crazy and I don't understand it, but I've now had two people in my life that I'm very close to have situations through Snapchat again with men that they were with. One, she was with him for a substantial amount of time, 5 years. One was a new relationship. And both these men were engaging in things on a fake Snapchat account, or not, I mean, fake, I guess not.
Like a catfish kind of account?
Sure,
Right.
if that's how you use the word. Like an account like that, where they're sending pictures or videos of themselves doing like,
Right.
who wants to watch a
Yeah.
dude jerk off on freaking Snapchat? Like, bros, stop sending pictures of your penis.
Unsolicited ones
it
too.
says unsolicited ones too at that. Like,
Yeah.
stop. And like, also girls, like,
Yeah, it does go
stop-
both
like,
ways.
For females too, it's like, if you're gonna put it out there, like, be prepared that somebody can easily screenshot that. And like, so both of those relationships ended because,
Right.
and so this is what I find fascinating is that I don't believe that either man believed that that was cheating.
Right.
And that to me
Yeah.
is mind blowing.
Yeah.
Where I'm like, how do you not, you're in a committed relationship with someone. So unless you're telling that person, in my opinion, this
Right.
is totally my opinion and you can disagree with me all day long. But if you're in a committed relationship with somebody and you haven't asked their consent to post your junk to another female and see the other female's bits and pieces as well,
Yeah.
and engage in that relationship, because it is a relationship,
Right. A
Like,
committed
you are,
relationship.
that you're, you know, like if you're going back and forth with somebody, regardless of if you ever see them in person or not, but you're having this back and forth with an individual, in my opinion, unless you've gotten consent from your partner, you are in
Cheating.
violation of that
Yeah,
relationship,
for
and you are
sure.
cheating. It is infidelity.
Yeah.
And so it's like, yeah, that's so interesting that you say that, just because it's like that dynamic of that Snapchat apparently is the platform that's used to engage in that. Like, oh, so that tells you like, oh, they just want to be
Exactly,
like, this
yeah.
is the level of interest they have in me.
And that's the whole new layer too, is like, how does the like influence of social media create new situations for testing your relationship? Like when you're on, or like even on Instagram, it's like I said, like jumping back to situations you had, you know, like 15 years ago or 20 years ago, like when you were in the dating scene, like how many situations did you have where you felt like some other girl could come in and test your boyfriend or something? You know what I mean? But now it's like, even seeing if your boyfriend liked another girl's post, that can create a whole conversation.
So interesting.
Right.
Just
Like
all
the smallest,
yeah.
like I feel like the more social media influences people, the more little situations it creates where you can be very nitpicky about what you allow your partner to do in your relationship.
And so how do you, circling back to mental health, how do you think, have you had an experience with social media that has influenced your mental health in a good way or a bad way?
For sure.
Yeah.
And I think even the like overwhelming amount of positive content is bad too. Like the amount of like
the happiness cult.
Yes.
Everybody be
yes,
happy.
Yes.
Be positive.
I
Good
think-
vibes only.
I think that's crazy too, because the automatic like conversation about social media, I feel like for women especially is body image and
Yeah.
expectations for, you know, the physical and everything like that. But also like just the influx of like motivation. I feel like even too much motivational content is not good. Like the overwhelming amount of just like, do this to be happy. You need to do this to be motivated. You need to do this, you know, to be disciplined or whatever. And it's just all this like just stimulation.
Oh,
And
there it
it's
is.
like, I almost just want to like erase it all and just be like, what is in front of me? And like, what do I do with me specifically?
Back to the basics.
Yeah, back to the basics, because there's just too much. And then you get into like people giving like relationship or life advice on TikTok, and it's just wrong. Like, it's just not good advice.
I think about too, like it has everything on it, right? So it has influences your relationships and body image, but then the positivity movement and the happiness cults and all of that. But then I also think there's a layer like how to be a mom. What does the perfect mom look like?
Right.
Or what does the perfect marriage look like? Or what kind of sex life should you be having?
Yeah, like,
and it's like
so many expectations.
everything. And I even think like there's I think we've tried to overcorrect too. There's some people out there that are trying to overcorrect and or put out an image of like, this is real life. And like, I respect that.
Right.
And also it's like, there's a level in that's like, you know, mom posted and it's like, oh, and then they're filling up their bottle, like their glass of wine, and it's the whole bottle. And it's like,
Right.
I will be the first to sign up for a glass of wine and I partake. However, it's like, I think that there's a level of like, who are you putting that out to? Because
Right.
are you just numbing to not feel because there's something there? And that's dangerous. That can lead to
Yeah.
some things. And so like, again, putting out
Right.
this content of like, let's drink together and numb ourselves because it's too hard to be a parent, which I get, I can relate to.
Yeah.
But again, the responsibility of what we are putting out into the world and that level of responsibility that we carry with whatever we are
Yeah.
putting out, because people are consuming that and some people aren't in good, healthy spaces that they
Right.
can take it with a grain of salt or that they,
Right. Or
you know.
consuming it without understanding the context of that person but
absolutely.
applying some random expectation with a different context.
Absolutely.
Which is so harmful.
Georgia, you're fucking awesome. Like, I swear, like I think the value you added to this conversation is just exponential. And I
Thank
just
you.
think that there's such a important perspective that you're providing for people.
All right. Well, you said it best. Georgia is fucking amazing.
Right? Like,
No denying that.
so much insight, and she makes this whole thing go. Like, we would be lost.
We wouldn't be here. We'll be
No.
honest. We wouldn't be here.
We would still be like, what do we order? Another voice to add to the mix also.
I like it. You're going to have your own cartoon soon.
Yeah, we would be lost. Anyways,
Anyway.
I am so grateful for this conversation. I think we've gotten a lot of, two very different perspectives, from different age groups, but then also just keeping the conversation going, because at the end of the day, social media is not going anywhere.
No,
Like,
it's not. It's only going to grow, I think. And there'll probably be some new platforms soon. So
for sure.
We went from living in the 80s to, being in first grade to challenges of being almost 19. So
Yeah. I think that it's important, takeaways from this is just being aware of what influences from a mental health perspective, from a self-worth perspective. Just being aware of the things that you consume and how it influences those things in your life.
And the conversation in your head.
And
you're the only one that can hear that conversation. So make sure it's kind.
Yes. And as parents, the responsibility we carry and how that looks in our own households and as influencers, as the responsibility that is held with that role as well, and the content you're putting out into the world. And I hope that it provokes a bigger conversation and that people just think a little bit longer before they post or about what they're putting out there, and maybe even take a break from the phone.
Hey,
put it
there's
down.
an idea.
Connect. Just connect in the physical, like in a physical way with people, of being face to face, picking up the phone and calling. I feel like we've gotten to this space where everybody's like, "Oh, I hate phone calls. Don't call me."
Oh,
and
if somebody calls me, I'm like, "What's wrong?
Yeah.
Why aren't you texting?"
Yeah. So it's like, really leaning into having, really pushing ourselves to connect in that form, and being able to pick up the phone and have a conversation and not just drop into my DMs or something like that. I think that's what it said.
Less
That's
addiction.
what they say. Oh, Georgia again just corrected us and let us know that it's slide into our DMs.
Sounds way cooler.
Yeah, don't slide into my DM. my DM's had
This is
enough.
going down.
Sorry.
Downhill real quick.
My DM's full. Okay. I apologize.
I was going to say less addiction and more connection.
Yes.
Just as your professor put it so well.
There we go. Get out there and connect. Go love one another. Go be kind. Go see people face to face. Put your phones down. Ask your kids what they're doing, how they're doing.
And good job to all you parents right now raising little ones. It's
exhausting.
It's exhausting. There's lots of challenges.
Yes. Thank you so much for listening. As always, I'm Danielle.
And I'm Cindy.
Till next time.